Okay, so we come to this week and we get to talk about the week 11 recap and what happened, positives, negatives, all of that stuff, right? Well, here's the thing, okay? This team is really not good, so we got to take every win for what we can. And honestly, yeah, no, this week, even though is going to go down as a loss on the column, which is probably for the better for us anyway, it's also going to go down as a win because of some of the stuff that we saw in this game. We'll get into that in today's episode, so let's get it started. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Titans Rundown. I'm your host, Micah McCamey, and in last week's episode, we obviously talked about the bye week, what had happened, and that, how big that was for our draft standing. And now this week, we get to talk about our game against the Houston Texans, where we just lost in an absolute barn burner. 13-16 was your final score. Absolutely amazing stuff, right? But no, anyway, seriously though, look, there were some good things in this game that I want to talk about, and there were obviously some pretty bad things. I think most people know what those bad things were, but we're going to start out with the positives. But before we get into the positives and negatives, Cam Ward, his own independent section, look, he went 24 of 37 for a buck 94 and one touchdown. Here's the thing. I do not understand why people are so in a rush to call Cam Ward a bust. Look, change is fun, especially in football, right? Even though we don't like it, there's something deep down in us that actually has a fun time with it. Why do you think I made head coaching candidate lists in week 1 of the NFL season? Look, obviously, Brian Callahan showed that he wasn't ready to be an NFL head coach and that he just straight up wasn't capable of it. But it was also just because I wanted to talk about head coaching candidates. I was excited about that, right? And we'll talk about those later on in the episode. Whenever we live in this click-based society where people are excited for change, this is what results in it. Cam Ward actually had some decent moments in this game. The receivers around him let him down, one specifically that we'll get into. But, I just don't understand. Look, I'm not saying this for all Titans fans because I know that not all Titans fans are like this, but some of these people are so impatient and they're such trolls, if you will. They don't know much. All that they do is that they watch the game, they hear everything that they want to about the negativity of the game, and then they come back and try and act like that's the 100% right opinion. Nobody else is right except for me. That's how it is. And honestly, I just hope that people can at least be patient with Cam Ward, right? Man, but I don't know how long that's going to last, but still, he led a game-tying touchdown drive against the best defense in the NFL, or at least second. Them and the Eagles it's debatable between those two, but really elite defense, and he looked okay. It wasn't like he was just the worst player on the field that day. We'll get into that for sure. But I thought it was a solid game, and the team is doing nothing for him. Nothing. His head coach sucks. Sorry, Mike McCoy. I'm sure that you weren't even expecting to be in this situation. Bo Hardegree is not the best play caller. The defense is actually, I'll give him that. The defense has been doing some stuff, but the run game, we'll get into that, and his receiver core has not been, nobody's doing anything for him. Just please be patient. Let him get some weapons around himself, whether it's receivers or O-linemen or whatever. Let him get a competent receiver core and come back to me next year, okay? If he has a competent receiver core next year and he's looking the same way that he is right now, then, throw in the Lions, yeah, okay, fine. Cam wasn't that great. But it is way too early right now to make any definitive analysis of what Cam Ward is going to be for the rest of his career. Honestly, there are some people in the fan base that act all like, oh, this team's terrible. We're going nowhere. Cam Ward sucks. Amy's the worst owner in all of football, which even though she's not great, that's not true. They say all of these terrible things, but here's the truth. These people are going to be around for the dark ages, and you're going to slowly but surely hear their names start to fade out of relevance whenever we start getting good again. I don't know when that is, but it will happen. They'll start fading away, not really talking, and they just won't exist. But no, I thought Cam Ward had a fine game, honestly. Looks a lot better on film from what I've heard from the film junkies. Look, okay, the 2 overthrows to Alec Manor, unacceptable. Obviously, he's got to work on that, right? there was one throw to Van Jefferson, which like part of me thinks there was the fade route to Van Jefferson that got called for a DPI. Part of me thinks that if Jefferson doesn't have his hand held down by the DB for the Texans, that he does complete that pass and that it looks a lot better. But still, that's something that you need to look out for. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Cam Ward did that bad. Obviously, he's got some stuff to work on. I mean, for goodness sake, I have been yelling to the rooftops about how whoever the next head coach or offensive coordinator is, they need to get his footwork right. If they can get his footwork right, then I think that eliminates a lot of problems for Cam Ward. But obviously, there are a couple of things that he still needs to work on. Some of that deep ball accuracy. Look, okay, you can't give him too much crap for not getting the ball out fast enough because, well, his O-line, isn't holding up for him, right? So, again, solid game. That's really it. Patience is what I'm going to preach, and I'm going to keep being optimistic. It's a similar thing to what Justin Graver over on Music City Audible. That's what he's doing. Like, that's really it. But anyway, let's get into the positives of this game, starting out with Chig Okonkwo. Okay, look, I need to apologize up front. I wanted Chig traded. I was wrong. Like, look, I was hoping that Gunnar Helm could get more reps and that he would be able to, get the full snap count as the rookie tight end, let him develop and all that stuff, right? Chig's been awesome, man. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, Chig has been very reliable in a receiver core that has not been that reliable. And he made the biggest catch of the day, the big dime from Cam Ward, which honestly, I saw it at the stadium. I knew it was a dime, but then I saw it on a replay, like whenever I was watching some clip of a dude defending Cam Ward. Ironically enough, I saw it from the TV angle. It looked even better from that angle. Like, dude, perfect throw by Cam. But Chig actually made that play. He made that catch, which is something that, you haven't seen the Titans receivers or tight ends doing that much. Actually, I'll give you this. The tight ends have actually done some decent things. I think Chig's been solid this year. Same thing goes for Gunnar Helm. But, dude, man, I really hope that Chig just keeps on being solid. I mean, that's really all that I ask. Get him, Gunnar, with a actual wide receiver one. Maybe we're cooking something here. Also, I do want to ask a question to the audience, and this is for anybody that does know. Like I said that the overthrows by Cam to Alec Eomanor were unacceptable. So I've heard some theories that that's more of Alec having a problem tracking the ball. So like, could somebody please just, say something about that, like clarify, like, hey, that is correct that he overthrew it, or it is correct that Alec Eomanor just didn't track the ball well. Let me know in the comments if you have an opinion on that. But anyway, going back to Chig, just really solid game, and I'm really excited to see what he does for the rest of the year. Next thing is the D-line. Big Jeff coming back, Arden Key coming back, both making big impacts instantly. I mean, Jeff's a one-man wrecking crew, dude. Like, look, whenever we got the ball back before the game-tying drive by Cam Ward, you'll see that Big Jeff got a sack on third down. I cannot stress to you enough how far and away Nico Collins was ahead of the DB that was guarding him. If Big Jeff doesn't go get that sack, that ball's out, and that ball is going to be complete to Nico Collins in the red zone. We never get the drive from Cam Ward. People start asking serious questions the next morning, and a lot of other problems happen. Big Jeff is the most valuable player to this team, and if you think that he should be traded, you're ridiculous. And that's really about it. And you're one of those people that really, really loves the clicks of having the clicks whenever it comes to, making hot takes and all that stuff. So, again, D-line really solid today. Jalen Harrell got a sack. That was insane. Like, just overall, really solid game by the D-line. Last thing for positives, the youth. The youth was really good in this game once again. Kevin Winston had a good game. Chris Harris had a solid game. Who else was there? Oh yeah, Cedric Gray continuing to play great. I know that Jeff isn't a part of the youth, but again, still great. There are a lot of pieces on that defense, and people just completely underestimate how good that defense can be. And I gotta give credit to Cody Barton. He had been pretty bad, like over the past couple of weeks, and I thought that he was starting to get washed, but comes back, has a solid game against the Texans. I'll give him that. he played a solid game. That was just a small mention, nothing to do with positives or negatives. Just, I wanted to put that out there because I've been going hard at Cody Barton the past couple of weeks. But anyway, offensively, Tajay, look, we'll get into the run game, but his receiving game was really good. I mean, he converted a 3rd and 12. Again, he played really solid, right? I thought he did at least. And then, golly, Chimere DK getting hurt, that actually hurt me. And look, Peter Skoronski, he didn't have his best game, but he didn't allow a sack, and that's really all that you can ask for from this Titans O-line right now. So again, the youth is showing a lot of promise these past couple of games. And heck, even Cam Ward showed some promise. Look, as long as the youth is looking good the rest of the year, I don't care if we win another game. If the youth continues to look good, the youth of Cam Ward, the youth of Cedric Gray, all of these guys, if they continue to show those flashes that they can be great, then my gosh, I will end this season a very happy man. All right. And I see these people saying that they're starting to get tired of covering the Titans because of how bad they are. I just love it right now, man. I don't know what it is. I'm just really loving it. I mean, being on Thunder Radio, that's fun. Some other things are happening behind the scenes that I'm not allowed to go public about yet, but I'm really excited to talk about those at some point. Dude, I don't know. I'm just really enjoying being a Titans fan right now. Not even because the team's good, but it's just because I feel like that I'm starting to gain some small traction. Still not big, but I'm starting to get some traction. But anyway, that's not about the game. That's about other things. And the youth continues to look good. That's the biggest positive of being a Titans fan right now, is that, look, even though the team's terrible, the youth looks fine. As long as the youth continues to look good, I'm okay. So again, overall, youth, pretty good game. And draft standing, because we lost this week, we still have that number 1 overall pick, which I cannot wait to trade down in April if that ends up coming true. But anyway, now we get on to the negatives. Just a little bit more down. Not too much, though, because, well, 2 of these things are not going to be here next year, and one of these things probably won't be here next year, or at least the head of it won't. So, negatives. First off, this was the first one that came to mind. I immediately wrote it down. Mason Kinsey. Somebody explained to me why Mason Kinsey was elevated above Xavier Restrepo. I still don't understand that. Look, I get it. Xavier Restrepo, he's not amazing with special teams. That's obvious enough. But Xavier Restrepo is very solid as a receiver. I mean, heck, I remember even watching, I've been watching a lot of Music City Audible recently. Shout out to the Justins. But, dude, I remember he was talking about this crossing route that Mason Kinsey ran. He was wide open in the middle of the field. Cam Ward puts it right here. It's not like an amazing pass, but it's still very solid. It's a little overthrown, but it goes right through the hands of Mason Kinsey. I don't mean to call out any names, but I remember there was just one specific Twitter user that got flamed alive because of the fact that he tried to blame that completely on Cam Ward. Yeah, y'all probably know who I'm talking about, but credit to him. He woke up the next morning and was just like, I was too hard on Cam. But anyway, look, and I remember Justin said, who would have caught that football? Xavier Restrepo. And I 100% agree. He made that catch so many times at Miami. I don't understand why he's not getting elevated. Not for any other reason apart from I think it would be very comforting for Cam Ward to have that former Miami presence, maybe help him get some swagger back. I mean, obviously he still has swagger. I have no doubt about that. I have no doubt that his confidence is unshakable. But I cannot stress to you enough, not because of Mason Kinsey. Look, I love Mason Kinsey, okay? Dude is in on the joke about the fact that he's in and out of this Titans football team, right? I cannot stress enough how much I love Mason Kinsey. But I hate the idea of Mason Kinsey being played above Xavier Restrepo. You know what you're getting out of Mason Kinsey. You know what you're getting out of James Prochet. Why have we not elevated Xavier Restrepo even once? I just want to see one football game from Xavier Restrepo. That's it. Anyway, obviously, this is more of a representation of not elevating Restrepo, but just Mason Kinsey, he wasn't great. That was really about it. Yeah. Next thing, coaching. Okay, look, Mike McCoy, you're a great tank commander, but you're definitely gone after this year. You're not going to have anything to do with the team. Overly conservative, ideas whenever it comes to, going for it on fourth down, running the ball on 3rd and 3. We got to trust the trenches that have been terrible all year, right? Like, I don't get it, but this was just a quick jab. Mike McCoy is not a good head coach. Chargers fans, you were correct on that. I still think that he's a good fit for an interim head coach because he tanks, but he's also, had the job before and he knows what to do. So again, he's not great, but he is good for what we need right now. Yeah, no, coaching just wasn't good. Next thing is the run game. I want you to take a wild guess who had the most yards in this game. Rushing, that is. If you guessed Tony Pollard, you're wrong. Tajay Spears, look, I get that I mentioned him as a positive, but no, it's not Tajay. Cam Ward was the leading rusher in this game. He had 3 carries for 33 yards. Without those, we had 15 carries for 22 yards. Think about that. That is inexcusable. I don't care how bad your O-line is. That's terrible. Tony Pollard, Callie, look, I appreciated that dude last year because he was one of the only positives of the team, but that dude's got to go now. I want to go get a running back in free agency this offseason to go pair up with Tajay. Tajay wasn't great either today, though. He had 5 rushes for 4 yards. Where was the Tajay of the last couple of weeks? I want to know that. Man, gosh. Yeah, the run game was especially bad, and it didn't open up the play action, which didn't help Cam Ward in the slightest, but I just don't get it, man. The run game, Cam Ward finally has one of his better games of the year, but yet the run game can't get going. What's up with that? Which still makes it even more infinitely stupid whenever it's 3rd and 3 on the 40-yard line. Cam Ward brought you down there, and then you decide, oh yeah, no, we're going to run it up the middle. Look, that was one of the worst play calls. That was not worse than the Wildcats before the bye week, but it was still pretty bad. Anyway, yeah, I mean, run game was just really disastrous, and honestly, it was the worst part of the day overall. Okay, now we get into the fun stuff. Head coaching candidates. Okay, 3 honorable mentions. Anthony Campanile. Y'all know how much I love the dude. I think that he's a great leader, and I think that his schemes are pretty great. I think that he is a sleeping giant for a head coach. But again, he had some weird moments with his defense recently, like letting up a bunch of points in the 4th quarter to the Texans out of all teams with Davis Mills. Also, he had some bad moments against the LA Rams, but who can blame him? Sean McVay's a genius with a good roster. But they came back this week. They played some pretty good defense against the Chargers, who, even though are kind of battered right now, it's a little bit better. Anyway, Brian Flores and John Gruden are on here. They're veterans that know the job. I think that Flores would be pretty great, but the problem is Flores would be pretty great if he could find a veteran offensive coordinator. That's where he would be great. But Flores is suing the NFL right now. That's the problem. He's not going to get hired if he's suing the NFL. Now, if you can convince him to drop the suits and come be a head coach for the team, then sure. But yeah, no, that's not going to happen. And John Gruden, well, that's obvious enough. And I question if he's a good coach or not. So anyway, going into top 5, number 5, Chris Shula finally making his way on the list. Chris Shula is a defensive genius, and he needs to be at least in big consideration for the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans. This guy, now here's a guy that is an innovator as a defensive coordinator, not in his schemes, but in his ideas. Instead of going down down by down whenever it comes to his formations, he goes with formation. Wait, hold on. I'm trying to remember what was said about Chris Shula that I remember hearing, and I thought that it was really solid. Again, his personnel packages are different for each situation, not for each down, but for each passing, running. I don't know how to describe it, but if you know how good of a defensive coordinator Chris Shula is. Golly, that was a bad look for me. But anyway, again, Music City Audible. If you want to know what I'm talking about, they've covered it before. Specifically, Graver on Twitter, he matched up against tendencies instead of personnel. That's what I was looking for. Hold on, give me 1 second. Yeah, he matched up against tendencies instead of personnel. Really just solid mind for the defense, and I really hope that he gets a chance at the head coaching position. Number 4, Robert Saleh, former head coach. Everything's been said about him, connection to Mike McDaniel, and I think to Brian Daboll as well. So if he can get one of those two as an offensive coordinator, that would be great. Number 3, Mike McCarthy. Again, I don't think I need to explain it, but I will. Very experienced head coach, head coaching experience with 2 different teams, 2 very different organizations, and has been great at both. And just overall, really solid head coaching candidate. Jesse Minter at number 2, the best coordinator with the Chargers right now, but that's not much of a competition. And he's an innovator schematically whenever it comes to the defensive side of the ball. And I mean, he's a coordinator under Harbaugh. Most of those dudes as head coaches grow on trees, right? And then number 1, Clint Kubiak. I had to go back to my former love. That dude, again, I know that it's after the week that Darnold threw 4 interceptions, but he's just been so good in Seattle that I just can't help but put him at number 1. Okay, that's it for today's episode. I have Twitter and Instagram under the Titans Rundown if you want to go check those out. And yeah, that's really about it. And also, Coffee listeners over on Thunder Radio, I have a YouTube channel. You get a visual version of this. You may get some short form content every now and again. It's probably for the better that you come subscribe here. But anyway, that's going to do it all for me. This has been a rundown of your Tennessee Titans. I love y'all, and tighten up.